Another true detective story on Netflix. However, this one is based in New York called Homicide, New York. Duh. So, is this worth your time? I'm going to tell you right now, it freaking is. Chase Lee Hockey here with the Blue Futon reviewing Homicide New York. What's about? Pretty simple premise. This is a 5-episode docu-series that focuses on 5 different stories. However, the assistant DA, the DAs, detectives, cops, all somewhat connect with each storyline of how they known each other, what cases connect them, and having that in this show absolutely is fascinating. It's something I haven't seen done. And it really works because this is something where you're like, okay, now I'm kind of getting the nitty gritty of how IT connects with this person, and this detective works with the DA, and this DA actually works with this detective or this street cop. And I'm like, it gives you that good insight of everyone involved in the case. And each of the 5 cases are very different, very unique, and just something that you're just like fascinated to watch because it is shot extremely well. Well, this is also executive produced by Dick Wolf. So Law and Order. So this is his nit and gritty, type of shows, and it really works. This is gonna be a very short review because there's not a lot of stuff to talk about. The 5 cases, they do choose some very interesting cases. You have a serial killer one. You have the one that's next to the David Letterman show in the sub shop. Apparently, like people were murdered. Like 3 people were executed in the back of the head, and one was an actress. You have someone getting gutted in Central Park. You have a couple other ones, I'm not mistaken. But with this, it kind of gives you the know-it-all of what New York, at least one part of New York is, and this is Manhattan part, where each precinct is like cut in half of North Manhattan, South Manhattan. I think it's like 39th Street, which what they talk about. It's basically the beginning, if you want to put it that way, of Central Park is one way, and the other one is the other way of how each cops work together. And living in Las Vegas before, I kind of saw this with Las Vegas versus the Metro Las Vegas Police Department, where if like an accident happens on that line, they kind of, I want to say argue, but they don't know whose jurisdiction it is of like who's going to solve this, case of a car accident, if someone died, whose fault it is, etc., etc. So understanding that is very interesting, and also understanding how some of these cops, detectives, etc., get transferred to other districts or other precincts because of something that another, mayor or police chief, etc., pissed them off, so they had to transfer. And they have a guy that does that, and you're just like, wow, just that little fucking thing will make someone transfer to one location to the other. Absolutely bonkers and interesting because, yeah, you can see that in the military or in other career fields, if you want to put it that way, where someone does something not good here. It's like, let's transfer them to the other side of the world so they kind of have a new beginning, only if you're like really high up in there. So I guess it actually happens a lot more than you think in the cop world, probably the military world, probably the industry, the IT world, theme parks. Because let's be honest, I mean, Disney World, you have Hong Kong, you have Japan, you have Shanghai, you have Paris, you have Anaheim, you have Orlando. So of course people are going to bounce around for here and there as well. Negatives of this show. Longer, actually. I know they don't want to make it 5 episodes, and maybe some cases could have had a little bit more to it. I do think the last one was probably the weakest, and that was the serial killer one. I know it talked about the stories, but it just felt the most clean. I know that sounds weird, but it's almost like, yes, it took time to get this murder suspect, caught, but it was simplistic. And I was like, okay, I enjoy the simplistic ones, but I really enjoy like these 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds, these rich kids killing someone or just shit like that, where you're just like, I'm more intrigued with how they're going to solve this murder. And I really think it's really cool. I'm trying to remember the other murder ones, but I'm just kind of fascinated about this show as a whole. Oh, that's right. And the other two was a woman vanishing in a like 25 floor building where she was a janitor. That's a very interesting one too. The 4th one was about a Jewish guy getting murdered, and that's a very interesting one. Where another one where if you just see what was going on, you kind of saw who the murderer on that one was going to be in the first 7 to 10 minutes. But I was watching that with my dad. I'm like, nah, it can't be that simple. And it was that simple for that one. But I think this is a very smartly written show. I love how it transfer like these um editing movements of like how we went from timeline to like 1997, 2003, 2001, 9/11 to 2007 to 93, and they do it through this like subway system. It's really cool. It's very fascinating, and I think if you're into homicide shows, this one will work for you. So Homicide New York will receive a 4.5 out of 5 of Futon, so it equals at 90%. So the critics and your scores gave this one. Critics, 80%, 5 of them. Audience score 86, fewer than 50, no critic consensus. Sorry for me, like, I want to say stuttering, but I just mowed the grass, showered, and I feel like, that smell of grass kind of like makes it hard for me to breathe. And I'm in that stage right now where I think I'm too close to this spongy thing. It gives me the same, like, gag reflex, so I'm sorry about that. Anyway, 80, 86, 90. Chase Liaki here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. All no things Futontopia. You Blue Futoners think about a great day. I don't care about state tomorrow, week from now, month, or a year from now, every single freaking one of you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Enjoy life. Enjoy yourself. And don't be a killer.